This is an extremely obvious statement and one that probably doesn't need repeating, but Payday 2 is probably one of the best co-op shooters out there. Few games can match the satisfaction of pulling off a perfectly executed heist with three of your best buddies, regardless if you go in guns a-blazing or do the whole thing without making a sound. It even does a decent job of providing a good solo experience, which is how I spent most of my time. And me and my friends, we didn't spend a lot of time with Payday 2, definitely not as much as the die-hard veterans, but we did enjoy our time with it. I really liked Payday 2, but when I first heard of Payday 3's release, I couldn't have been any less excited. Payday 2 has pretty much set the standard for co-op shooters, paving the way for similar games like Deep Rock Galactic or GTFO. Not to mention, the game's been going strong for 10 years now, meaning there's tons of DLC, some better than others, to keep you and your friends occupied for hours to come. Needless to say, Payday 3 would have some massive shoes to fill and a very dedicated fan base to please. With the current state of games today, I didn't put too much faith into Payday 3 being a quality sequel. More often than not, new big releases like this just don't live up to the hype. But time and time again, we've seen AAA developers line up all their pins for a strike, and they still manage to roll a gutter ball. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of planned on skipping Payday 3 entirely. I haven't played Payday 2 in quite a long time, and I still just couldn't shake the feeling that the sequel was just not gonna be good. But I saw it was available on Game Pass, and I figured, hey, what have I got to lose except for my time? And by God, did I lose a lot of time. The core gameplay experience has been pretty much translated one-to-one from Payday 2, supplemented with a number of overhauls and improvements that mix up the gameplay from its predecessor. Most of these improvements are mainly in the stealth mechanics. In Payday 2, you were pretty limited as to what you could do while you were in casing mode. Basically, anything illegal or shady was completely off limits, but you have a lot more freedom in Payday 3. Your casing mode capabilities in this game have been drastically expanded. In terms of mobility, you can freely sprint, crouch, and run around to your heart's desire, and you're not limited as to what actions you can do. As long as you don't get caught, you can pick locks, bust windows, and freely interact with all aspects of the environment, giving you much more freedom and flexibility to tackle heists how you want, in addition to alleviating much of the tedium that surrounded Payday 2's stealth gameplay. Getting caught while trespassing, as long as you're unmasked, is very forgiving as well. Instead of instantly sounding the alarm, guards will simply escort you off the premises. Regular citizens won't pay much attention to you either, unless they catch you doing something illegal or spot you in a secure location. I'm also glad to see that the body bag system has been entirely removed. Now you can freely move and hide dead bodies without worrying about wasting a bag. Even with how bad I am at them, I still love playing stealth games, and I have been itching for a brand new installment of the Metal Gear or Splinter Cell franchises for years now. And I'm not necessarily counting the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake when I say this. And honestly, the Payday 3 stealth mechanics kind of live up to these games. They're very satisfying, very fun, and make me wish for a game that utilized these same mechanics with a core stealth gameplay loop. Gunplay is pretty much the same, so you can expect it to be tight, responsive, and very satisfying. Unfortunately, with how good the stealth is, combat as a whole has undergone multiple changes I can't say I enjoy, particularly from a solo player's perspective. Now, I may sound like a bit of a baby for saying this, but the gameplay difficulty feels extremely unbalanced, even while playing on normal. Regular guards and beat cops aren't too much of a problem, but armored SWAT enemies are absolute bullet sponges, even taking multiple headshots to completely bring down. To make things worse, enemies drop extremely limited amounts of ammo, often not enough to make up for what you used to take them down in the first place. Whenever a heist went loud, I constantly found myself running out of ammo. This wouldn't be too big of a problem if you had melee combat, but for some reason, melee combat has been entirely removed from Payday 3. I don't really understand it. It was a nice little fallback in case you're running low on ammo, or if you just wanted to take out a single guard without wasting a bullet. It wasn't too much of a utility, to be honest, but it was at least nice to have. The armor system has also undergone a major rework. In Payday 2, armor functioned a lot like shields do in Halo, regenerating a bit after taking damage, while you could only restore health with medkits. Now you're required to use armor plates to restore any lost armor, a similar mechanic to the recent Call of Duty installments. For me, this throws off the whole flow of the game, as it's just another resource that you have to manage, and it's pretty difficult to do, especially when you're playing solo. Managing health and armor was a fun balancing act in Payday 2 that required strategy but still gave you the freedom to play aggressively when you wanted to. But in Payday 3, if you're out of armor and you don't have any plates, you're pretty much dead. In addition, level progression has been overhauled from how it worked in Payday 2. Instead of earning XP from simply completing heists, it's instead earned through completing a number of different challenges. The debate on if this new system is good or bad is entirely subjective, but I for one cannot stand challenge-based progression systems. The whole point of games, especially games in the Payday series, is the freeform way you can tackle the challenges ahead of you, but locking main progression behind these very specific challenges takes that freeform gameplay and constricts it down into extremely rigid requirements. You can make it flawlessly through a stealth heist, get all secondary objectives, complete the entire thing on overkill difficulty, and still be rewarded with 0 XP, all because you didn't play the game how it wanted you to. Requiring challenges like this for achievements or bonus rewards is one thing, but locking the gameplay progression behind this system is just simply annoying. Experimenting with different playstyles and approaching the game with different mechanics should be something that the player does on their own, not when the game tells them to. And if I'm not going to be rewarded for tackling the biggest objectives on the hardest difficulties, then why would I even play the game in the first place? Luckily, with how poor the level progression is, weapon progression has been streamlined and improved from how it worked in Payday 2. You still unlock weapons by leveling up yourself, but weapons increase in level the more you use them, unlocking new attachments and customizations the higher you level a weapon up. The card system in Payday 2 was honestly way too reliant on RNG, and I often got attachments for weapons I didn't even use, if I even got a weapon attachment in the first place. This new system is much more simple, more straightforward, and you can quickly upgrade your favorite guns by using them consistently. As I've said, my time with Payday 3 was mainly spent solo, so I had to rely on bot teammates for the entirety of my gameplay, and I can say with confidence that the bot AI in this game is some of the worst I have ever seen in a video game. Like Payday 2, your bot buddies will stand on the sidelines before the heist goes loud to stay out of your way. When things hit the fan and the heist goes loud, the bots will jump in and fight with you. In terms of fighting, they aren't a complete hindrance. Having 4 guns is better than 1, but unlike an actual human player, they have no sense of target importance, focusing on the rank and file grunts instead of higher priority targets like cloakers or dozers. They're also rarely capable of keeping themselves alive, resulting in you juggling revives unless you want to truly be left alone. There's also no way to customize the bots on your team like you could in Payday 2, meaning you can't give them upgraded weapons and you can't give them any team boosting perks. I've seen the bots in Payday 2 be described as OP, but honestly I think they kind of need to be. If you're playing any of the Payday games without a full team before, then you're already at a disadvantage. The games themselves are designed for 4 people, and sometimes you just can't, or really just don't want to, play with other people. Again, this is obviously a game geared toward group play, but the reworks to the combat mechanics really make it feel like the developers are purposely punishing solo players. Ammo, armor, and health are now all limited resources you have to juggle, but if you're playing by yourself, you can only bring one of those things into a heist, meaning that the other 2 will be in a constant state of scarcity. And with how even more useless the bots are, that's just even less of an edge that you have in combat. I really can't say much on this front, but these changes probably do really work well in the context of a well-coordinated team. Tougher enemies wouldn't be as much of a threat with 4 people reliably working together, and you wouldn't have to worry too much about running low on supplies if everyone brings in the required gear. If these changes to the gameplay weren't bad enough, this whole anti-solo mindset really culminates when you learn that all of Payday 3 is entirely online only. Plain and simple, this is an anti-piracy measure with a little bit of data collection and selling sprinkled into the mix. And it feels especially more scummy when you look that the developers said that they were opting to not use de novo DRM, but then decide to throw this online only system in your face, basically trading out one evil for another. Forcing online for solo play is one thing, but I have never seen a game handle single player as poorly as Payday 3. In fact, there's no dedicated option for creating a solo match. You're forced to start an invite-only lobby and actually queue into the game's matchmaking. Yes, you have to actually wait in a matchmaking queue to load into a solo game. To make matters worse, at launch, the game had countless issues with its matchmaking system, resulting in almost every queue ending in a matchmaking failed screen, a problem that occurred even if you were playing in a solo lobby, rendering the game basically unplayable for everyone for the first few days it was out. It was outrageous. It would be one thing if the multiplayer systems didn't work as planned, but the fact that even solo players couldn't get on and play meant that nobody could get on and play the game that they paid for. Luckily, as of now, the game seems to be in a pretty good state as it's undergone numerous periods of server maintenance. And at the time of recording, Payday's publisher Starbreeze has announced that they are reducing the game's reliance on online features. Even if these issues are completely fixed and an offline mode is added, having such a disastrous launch means that there is a scar on Payday 3 that is going to take a very long time to heal. If you do manage to get into a game, even a solo one, you still have to deal with online hangups. One I ran into numerous times was connectivity. You're able to actually encounter lag while playing solo, and I rarely had a connection to the servers that wasn't in the red. Plus, you can't even pause the game while playing by yourself. I guess this isn't that big of an issue when you're playing stealth because you can just go and hide somewhere, but when the heist is loud and you have to go leave for some reason, that basically constitutes a failure and you've got to restart. There were multiple times while I was playing the game that I had to leave to go take care of something and I had to restart the heist because half of my team was dead. At its absolute core, Payday 3 is a decent game, but there are so many baffling decisions that just bring down the entire experience. Nerfing bots, reworking armor, and buffing enemies just make the whole game more difficult for solo players. And with the progression being such a restraining slog, why would you want to play in the first place? I don't want to speak for the entire Payday community when I say this, mainly because I am honestly not qualified to, but I'm sure many players, myself included, would have been perfectly fine if Payday 3 had been little more than a port of Payday 2 to a better engine. Payday 2 is a solid game and it's exceptionally fun, and there is so much content there for you to enjoy. And the thing that sucks most about Payday 3 is that in Starbreeze's eyes, Payday 2 is pretty much dead and buried. But if there's one thing that can be said about Payday 2 is that its community is very, very dedicated. Payday 2 is still one of the top 25 games on Steam in terms of players, and I doubt that that community is going to let that game die anytime soon. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give the video a like and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another video. And please do let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed or did not enjoy Payday 3. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you all on the next video. Take care.